I'm Jeff Swoboda. I'm the Chief of Police at the Elgin Police Department. The early days of policing were much like early days of policing throughout the entire country. It was a rougher city, and they didn't have squad cars, obviously, and getting from place to place was difficult. The type of officers that were hired in the early days of policing in Elgin were the types of officers that hired across the country in the early days. They were men who needed to be able to take care of themselves, very self-reliant. Technology wasn't to the point where they could call on their radio and have a squad car show up to assist them rather quickly. So again, officers had to be able to take care of themselves in any type of situation that they encountered.
My name is Donald Thiel. I'm a sergeant with the Elgin Police Department. We have historic documents that track patrol operations all the way back into the late 1800s. Back in the late 1800s, the police department was equipped with horses and wagons. There were no radios, there were no phones, so patrol officers had to walk neighborhoods to learn what was going on in that neighborhood. The officer was essentially on their own when they were in that neighborhood. There was no one to call. You had to be responsible for your own work. That was known as a beat officer back then. The officer would walk his beat in that neighborhood, know it very well, get to know the people, and if a serious event did occur, hopefully those neighbors would help that officer out because he couldn't rely on other officers coming to back him up.
So the type of officers that were hired were men, obviously, especially in the early days, and large men. And the type of disorderly conducts that occurred and fights, those were the things that they generally were dealing with.
As automobiles began to come about, the police department ventured into that mode of transportation themselves. The early cars that we had in the early teens served the police department to allow the officers to move around town. However, communication was still a problem. Some of the earliest communication devices that we had were call boxes. These were essentially telephones that were locked in boxes at various places in town.
Like where Roscoe's used to be downtown or on McLean and Lillian there. I'm Jaime Gonzalez. I'm a retired Elgin police officer. I worked here for 34 years. There was call boxes, and if you had to call the station for a backup or to report anything, you had to run to that, call, and if they wanted you, there was red lights on top of those call boxes, way about 30 feet high or whatever. The little red light would call on and start blinking, and you'd have to run over there and see who was calling you, which was headquarters, the police department.
Later, when portable radios came about, the police department bought radios for the squad cars and for officers' hips. The squad car radios came far before the portable radios that the police officers carry today.
My name is Brian Lawrence. One of my jobs with the Elgin Police Department is the unofficial historian. Well, Elgin was first settled in 1835 when James T. Gifford came here from upstate New York. And while Elgin did not become an official city until 1854, it was certainly a vibrant community. And as a vibrant community, they held elections. And one of the elections they held in 1836 was for constable. And the first constable in Elgin was Samuel J. Kimball. And while his job was certainly different as constable than ours are as police officers today, one of his jobs was to maintain order.
Nowadays, the type of police officers we're trying to hire are the problem solvers. People that recognize that brawn is important, but also brains will many times save the day.
Hi, my name is Anna Lally, and I'm a lieutenant at the Elgin Police Department. And one of my responsibilities is I am the supervisor in charge of our evidence response team. Currently, I'm assigned to the afternoon shift patrol unit, so I'm in charge of the afternoon shift, and secondary duty is being responsible for the evidence response team, which is comprised of 24 evidence technicians who work across 3 patrol shifts. Some of the challenges that we face are, as part of the evidence response team, is CSI effect, which is where they expect an officer to arrive at a scene and an hour later that crime is solved based upon evidence. So because of that, we've had to encourage using new techniques to process scenes to make sure that we're getting as much evidence as we can, because really on scenes you only have one chance to process evidence, to collect evidence. That's a challenge, is making sure that the public understands that once an officer gets there and evidence is collected, the crime is not solved an hour later.
My name is Katie Potts, and I'm in the training division. Throughout the day, I schedule training for the officers that are here. I make sure that the officers that are at the academy are getting the appropriate training that they need. I research new laws that are coming into effect, update any kind of training bulletins that the officers will need to go about their day-to-day activities.
I'm Detective Elias Acevedo. I work for the School Liaison Officer Program. I'm currently assigned to Ellis Middle School. I've been at Ellis Middle School for 10 years, so I've seen some kids come from some very difficult backgrounds, and some of them come to school with this negative image about the police, that we're always out there to get them and just always trying to get them in trouble. And so having that one-on-one interaction with them at the school, I've been able to present the police department in a positive light for what we really are. And I've had kids that come to school and already gang involved, have experimented with drugs, and I've been in trouble at the elementary level. So getting them at Ellis Middle School and me being there, I've been able to work with them one-on-one and guide them on a different path.
I'm Deputy Chief Cecil Smith. I'm in charge of the investigative unit wing of the Elgin Police Department, which includes the Honor Guard. As Deputy Chief, I am responsible for the investigative section, which includes all of our investigators, and the budget. Most recently this year, taking over and just looking at what's going on, ensuring that bills are pretty much being paid, that our guys are taken care of, and that the citizens of Elgin are, secure in their beings. Back in about 1997, we kind of realized that we had a kind of an unorganized group of officers who would respond to funerals and provide services for officers who were retired or fallen officers in our department. So we made a decision that we wanted to have a dedicated group of officers there to provide these services. And at that point, myself and several other officers got together and put together a complete training program for our Honor Guard.
My name is Officer Chad Van Master, and I'm with the Elgin Police Department. I've been employed for 16 years. I'm currently with the Crime-Free Housing Program. My day consists of partnering with the rental housing community. I address landlords' issues, management issues. I network with some of the larger apartment complexes in the city of Elgin, in which we try to reduce calls for service and crime. And if a crime issue comes up on their property, I'll work to assist them with that by investigating who, what, when, where, and then keeping them informed, hopefully leading to either an eviction or an arrest, in which we can keep their rental housing community safe.
My name is Sergeant Dennis Hood. I've been with the Elgin Police Department for 23 years, and I'm currently involved with the Police Bicycle Operations Unit. When the bike officers are deployed, very often they work in the downtown central business district due to its locale, near the police department. But they can be put into several different assignments all over the city of Elgin based on the needs of the department. They can work in covert operations. They're hiding out, looking at burglary locations. They're flexible to work with drug interdictions and drug arrests.
Well, my name's Officer Santiago. I currently work the patrol night shift. I've been a hostage negotiator for the last 13 years. During one of the crisis negotiations that we did, I actually had a hostage, and we actually used a throw phone, which SWAT deployed for us. During that, we were able to find out that there was a male subject with a female subject. He also had a weapon inside. He was threatening to do her harm. However, he didn't say he was going to use the weapon, but he did say that he had the weapon, and it was a gun. I was able to talk to him, connect with him, find out what his likes were, what he was upset about. I was able to talk him into leaving the gun, giving himself up, and again, letting her go, and pretty much nothing happened. Everything was safe, and that was probably one of the best negotiations we had.
My name is Heather Robinson. I'm a detective with the Major Investigations Division of the Elgin Police Department. One of the most standout cases that I've worked since I've been up here was a daytime burglar who was going in and kicking people's doors in while they were either home or not home, and taking money and jewelry and anything of value. We ended up tracking the suspect into Hoffman Estates and a couple other jurisdictions. And once we were on to his pattern of crime, we contacted those jurisdictions as well, and they became involved in the investigation. I was able to develop an informant who called on the day that the suspect was seen, and she led us straight to him. It was a small chase that ensued, and we eventually caught the bad guy.
My name is Brian Gorkowski, and I'm a detective with the Elgin Police Department assigned to the Major Investigations Division. Some of the challenges that I face during investigations are trying to obtain good suspect information and then find those suspects. A lot of times the suspects are located through physical evidence such as fingerprints or DNA and that kind of evidence. Sometimes they're located through eyewitness statements, but a lot of times I'm looking for suspects that are unknown to anyone. I have a video of a suspect and I have his photograph. I know what he or she looks like. However, I then have to find that person and use that evidence against them as, you know, being a part of the crime.
My name is John Slocum. I'm assigned to the Elgin Police Department K-9 unit as a K-9 handler. There's been many things in the past that our dogs have been able to accomplish. One recent that stands out in my memory was a call of a suicidal subject here on the northeast side in the park. He had abandoned his car and wandered into the woods, leaving behind a suicide note. Our dogs located the individual. We were able to get him the medical help that he required.
My name is Jim Lally. I'm a sergeant with the Elgin Police Department, and I'm assigned as a team leader with the Elgin SWAT team. There's several special circumstances. We are responsible for the serving of high-risk search warrants, high-risk arrest warrants. We would place actually sniper teams out who would do surveillance for us, even on a standard search warrant. It's a nervous and anxiety feeling for the first 2 minutes, but usually from the beginning to end. The planning phase is extremely long, but the actual incident is usually over within a matter of a minute to 2 minutes.
My name is Sergeant Dan O'Shea. I'm with the Elgin Police Department since 1999. The Elgin Police Department has gone through many technological advances over the years. One of those technological advances currently is the Air One search and rescue helicopter program that we belong to. The technological advantage of using forward-looking infrared radar flying at 2,000 feet over the city is a big benefit to officers.
Some of the technology that we have here at the police department is state-of-the-art. Just recently, we acquired money through a grant to have computer equipment that will forensically examine other computers and cell phones and things of that sort.
A new SWAT truck, which is a armored rescue vehicle. The vehicle was funded through drug asset forfeiture, which is when our police officers here, whether it be our narcotics unit, our gang officers, or even our patrol officers, they have the ability to seize funds from drug dealers. And literally no taxpayer money has been used to pay for this vehicle.
Most of the advances that the police department has had is within the computers, within the computer world. We used to book people on a booking sheet, paper.
We had to type everything. All the reports had to be typed, and there was just one little piece of paper there there was double copies, and you put them in the typewriter, and we only had one typewriter in the back hallway, and it went by seniority. So if you were junior man and it was a busy night, sometimes you had to wait till 11 o'clock.
Years ago, we had a portable radio to communicate with. Today, of course, with modern technology, we've moved into cell phones, computers in the cars, camera systems in the cars, and soon policing will be moving towards police body cameras, where the police officer will have a small camera on the front of their uniform and will videotape the calls as they go to them.
Some of the equipment that we use depends on the type of scene that we're processing, but the basic scenes involve fingerprint brushes and fingerprint powders to print recovery, tape to lift the prints, to specialized cameras, along with, once we actually collect the evidence and processing of the evidence, to dryers that secure evidence when you have a scene that maybe you have clothes that are bloody, you place them in the dryer to preserve evidence. We also have a fuming chamber, which is where we can recover latent prints by a chemical reaction. So we are always looking for current equipment, progressive equipment to make our unit better.
Some of the things that haven't changed are officers' intuition.
Some of the other things that will never change, obviously, is suspects, the way that they interview with detectives, the information that we gain through those interviews.
Something that hasn't changed since I've been a police officer, and I don't think ever will change, is the way we speak to people matters, and how we treat them matters. And the average person, after a traffic stop, or even after somebody is given a traffic ticket, the one thing that always leaves them is how the officer spoke to them. It's not always about the offense, and many officers have written traffic tickets where they're thanked at the end. So I think just remembering that we are a police department, that the community really is our boss. And when we're out there treating everybody with respect and the dignity that they deserve, even though many times it's not reciprocated. We don't get that same respect, but we're above that, and the way we treat people matters. And I don't think that that's changed since 1836 to today, and the way we speak to people matters.